"It was just a birthday face mask," my sister said after driving the cake into my daughter's face. But when my child began vomiting and seeing double, I rushed her to the emergency room. The doctor found a fresh fracture, then pointed to another one that had healed badly months earlier. When my daughter whispered, "Don't let Grandma take me," what had my family been hiding? The lock clicked behind Dr. Naomi Park as my mother struck the window with her palm. "She has no right to keep me out," Mom said. "I have papers. I can make medical decisions for Emma." The handle jerked again. Dr. Park did not turn around. She placed 2 images beside each other on the screen. "This fracture is from tonight." Her finger rested beneath my daughter's left cheekbone. The break was small, but soft frosting could not have caused it. There had been a hard push, followed by contact with something solid. Then her finger moved higher. "This one is older." The second line was pale and uneven. It had healed in the wrong position. My mouth went dry. Emma had never broken a bone in her face. That was what I believed. She sat curled beneath a hospital blanket. Blue frosting clung to her hairline and one ear. She kept watching the door. Every time my mother spoke outside, Emma's hand tightened around mine. Dr. Park opened a record from a clinic in the hospital system. The visit had taken place 8 months earlier. The note said Emma had injured herself during an emotional episode. They also said I could not be reached. The adult who brought her in was my mother. Attached to the record was a medical authorization bearing my name, Lauren Walker. The signature looked close enough, but the first letter was wrong. My L always stayed open at the bottom. This one closed into a careful loop. "I never signed that." Emma leaned toward the screen. "That isn't your L," she whispered. Another knock hit the glass. Mom raised a folder and spoke in the calm voice she used whenever she believed everyone else had misunderstood her. She said Emma needed rest. She said I was emotional. She said the doctor was turning a family joke into something criminal. I had always imagined danger as someone losing control, but my mother stood outside with papers in her hands and the calmest voice in the room. Sometimes the most frightening person is the one who feels no fear while taking control of someone else's life. Emma pulled the blanket to her chin. "Please don't let Grandma take me back to the quiet room." Dr. Park looked at her, then at me. She called hospital security and the social worker. Then she made a required report of suspected child abuse. After giving our room number, she called 911. 12 hours earlier, I thought I was taking my daughter to one final birthday party before we moved. I did not know my mother had spent months turning my smallest mistakes into a case against me. But when I saw that false signature, something in me changed. I would not stay quiet again. Before this was over, everyone who had used my daughter to hide the truth would answer for what they had chosen. 12 hours earlier, I pulled into my mother's driveway with a number 9 balloon tapping against the passenger window. Emma sat beside me with a drawing pad. In less than 2 weeks, we were moving to Columbus. I had accepted a management position with better hours and pay. I wanted this birthday to feel warm, something Emma could remember. Mom opened the door before we reached it. The house smelled like coffee and cinnamon. Photographs filled the mantel and every open surface. There she was at preschool, at Christmas, asleep on Mom's couch, and standing outside school on mornings I had never known anyone was taking pictures. Mom hugged her and smoothed her hair. "Look at all these years in your real home." Emma stiffened, then stepped closer to me. Mom used that phrase 3 times before we removed our coats. She showed us the guest room. She had hung new curtains, filled the dresser with clothes, and arranged books by reading level. "Every child needs one room that stays the same," she said. I reminded her that Emma already had a room with me. Mom said children needed roots. A promotion was wonderful, but stability mattered too. A better salary could not replace family. She never told me not to move. She only made me feel selfish for wanting to. After my husband died, Mom picked Emma up when my shifts ran late. She brought dinner when I could not cook. She kept pajamas and reminded me about appointments. I called it kindness. Later I understood that control rarely begins with an order. It begins with dinner arriving at the right moment, a child being picked up when you are trapped at work, and the feeling that you owe more than you can repay. Mom sat beside her coffee cup with a notebook. She asked Emma what time I came home on Tuesday, whether she ate before I arrived, and whether she still reminded me about library day. Each time Emma answered, Mom wrote one line. I told myself she was organized. I told myself she would miss us. Brooke arrived late with a stuffed pink unicorn meant for a younger child. She said children needed something that did not keep changing. Emma placed it on a chair. Then she drew our new apartment, with 2 figures beneath a yellow window. When her blue marker dried out, Mom sent her to the study for supplies. Emma looked at the hallway. "Can you come with me?" I was opening paper plates. I told her I would be right there. Minutes later, she returned without a marker. She held a blue folder against her chest, her face drained of color. She stopped beside me and read the words at the top. Temporary emergency guardianship. The room went silent, and Brooke dropped the match in her hand. Emma looked down and read another line. Rachel Walker frequently leaves the minor child without proper supervision. My mother stood so quickly that her coffee shook. Brooke stared at the folder, then forced a smile. "Someone is getting too serious for a birthday." She lifted the cake. "How about a birthday face mask?" Emma stepped back. Brooke lunged. The acrylic base struck with a hard sound. A chair scraped across the floor. Emma lost her balance and hit the left side of her face against the stone fireplace. A few guests laughed. Then the room went silent. Emma curled on the floor, hands pressed to her cheek. Frosting filled her eyelashes. When she tried to cry, moving her jaw made her gasp. I pushed Brooke away and knelt beside my daughter. "Do not touch her again." Brooke stared at Emma's face. "Not that side again." The words escaped before she could stop them. Then came the excuses. Emma was always bumping into things. She had panicked and fallen. The cake had barely touched her. My mother never knelt beside her granddaughter. She grabbed the loose page and shoved it into the blue folder. One corner tore free. Emma closed her fingers around it. I later saw my mother's name beside the word petitioner. My cousin had her phone raised. She had recorded the candles and the attack. When I reached for my phone, Mom leaned close. "Don't report your sister over one stupid mistake. She still has her whole future." When a family protects the future of the person who caused the harm before asking whether the victim is still in pain, that is not loyalty. It is a system built to keep the wrong person safe. I took Emma home and called our insurance nurse line. She was awake, speaking clearly, and had not been sick. The nurse told me to watch her and go to the emergency room if she became confused, saw double, or got sick. 2 hours later, Emma vomited. Then she looked at the lamp and said there were 2. On the drive, she stared through the window. "Grandma took me to a clinic before," she whispered. "She said you were not supposed to know." The red emergency sign appeared. I looked at my daughter's swollen face in the mirror and understood that tonight was not the first time something had happened inside my mother's house. A nurse met us at the emergency entrance with a wheelchair. Emma said she could walk, but when she tried to stand, her knees softened. Inside, the lights were dimmed. Dr. Naomi Park introduced herself before touching her. She explained each step, then waited for Emma to nod. "I am going to look at your cheek now." Emma flinched. Dr. Park stopped. "Nothing happens until you are ready." That sentence nearly broke me. I told her what happened at the party. Then I admitted the part that filled me with shame. I had taken Emma home first. Dr. Park did not excuse me, but she did not use my mistake against me. She said the vomiting and double vision meant they needed X-rays and a CT scan. While we waited, I cleaned blue frosting from Emma's hair. It no longer looked like birthday decoration. It looked like evidence. Dr. Park returned with the results. The new fracture sat below Emma's left cheekbone. It came from the push and the impact against the stone fireplace. Then she showed me the older fracture. It circled part of the left eye socket and had healed out of alignment. Badly healed. The hospital system showed a clinic visit from 8 months earlier. The note said Emma had injured herself during an emotional episode. It said I could not be reached. My mother had signed in as guardian. Brooke was listed as the accompanying adult. Attached to the record was a medical authorization bearing my name. The first letter closed into the same false loop I had seen on the guardianship page. I never signed that. Emma leaned closer. "That is not your L." Before Dr. Park could answer, my mother's voice rose outside. She held up the authorization and insisted it gave her legal authority. Dr. Park asked for a court-stamped guardianship order. My mother did not have one. Emma's hand turned cold inside mine. "Do I have to go home with Grandma?" She pulled the blanket to her chin. "Please don't let Grandma take me back to the quiet room." Dr. Park activated the hospital's child protection process. Security arrived. A social worker was called. Then she made a required report and called 911. I had once thought paperwork was harmless. That night, I learned a false signature could become a weapon. It could open schools, clinics, and courtrooms to someone who had no right to enter. The police separated my mother and Brooke. A child protection worker took Emma away to speak privately. Alone, I unfolded the paper she had hidden in her dress. A file number remained near the top. Below it was my mother's name, petitioner. My mother had not studied guardianship law to help me. She had been preparing to ask a judge to give her my daughter. The hospital released Emma with a safety plan. My mother and Brooke could not contact her, pick her up, or appear at school. I drove home before sunrise with discharge papers and Emma sleeping beside me. Once she was settled on the couch, I began closing the doors I had opened. I removed my mother and sister from the school pickup list. I changed the medical portal password and learned my mother knew the answer to my security question. The pharmacy still listed her as someone allowed to collect Emma's medicine, so I removed her and added a verbal code. Each change took minutes. Together, they showed me how much access I had surrendered. I had needed help after my husband died. I had worked late, accepted meals, and trusted rides home from school. Needing help had not made me unfit, but I had ignored Emma when she said she hated sleeping at Grandma's house because my mother's explanation was easier to accept. I sat beside her and apologized. I should have asked what happened there. Emma kept her eyes on the blanket. You told me I had to listen to grown-ups. She did not forgive me. She did not need to. An apology was not a request for her to make me feel better. My lawyer, Claire Donovan, told me not to call my mother. She told me not to post the birthday video or send accusations through the family. I photographed every document, preserved the originals, and saved every message with timestamps. Then we rebuilt the night of the old injury. My work calendar showed a 13-hour shift. My mother had texted, "Don't risk your job over a little bump. I handled it." Brooke followed with, "We handled it." She's fine. A photograph arrived later that night. Emma sat at the kitchen table with ice cream. Her hair had been brushed across the injured eye. In a jewelry box, I found the bracelet Brooke gave her the next morning. The folded tag came from the clinic gift shop. Brooke had been there. The school records were worse. Someone had expanded my mother's pickup authority using another false signature. The form had been uploaded from an email address built from my mother's initials. Emma's teacher confirmed that a sentence in the guardianship papers had been cut from a longer message. My mother had introduced herself at school as the person who managed most of Emma's daily care. Help is temporary. It gives authority back when the crisis ends. Control uses your weakest season to argue that authority should never return. When I got home, Emma pulled a laminated page from her backpack. Family stability chart. The back listed months of notes. Pickup changed. Mother arrived after bedtime. No prepared dinner observed. Child stayed at grandmother's home. I had once thanked my mother for making that chart. Now I understood. It was not a routine. It was a record of me. The petition arrived the next morning. My mother used the birthday injury as proof that I could not protect Emma. She wrote that I had taken my daughter home instead of going straight to the emergency room. She called that decision reckless. Then came the rest. 2 late school pickups, my long shifts. The week our apartment was messy because Emma and I both had the flu. A photograph of the refrigerator before the grocery delivery arrived. A picture of Emma asleep on the couch in her school clothes. The anxiety medication I had taken after my husband died. Beside those facts were phrases like chronic instability and emotional risk. None of it was invented. That was what made it dangerous. Claire read the petition beside me at the kitchen table. Your mother's strategy isn't to invent your life. It's to remove every explanation from it. The hearing was only days away. I felt ashamed before I felt angry. The photographs were real. The dates were real. I had been late, exhausted, and dependent on help. My mother did not need to prove that I had never loved my daughter. She only needed a judge to believe my love was not enough to overcome my worst days. Claire asked me to write a full statement. I wrote that Emma had struggled with Grandma's rules. Claire pushed the page back. Is that what she said? No. Emma had said she hated sleeping there. I had accepted my mother's explanation because it was easier than asking why my daughter was afraid. So I crossed out my sentence and wrote the truth. I added that I had waited until Emma vomited before taking her to the emergency room. I admitted that I had trusted my mother's judgment when I should have trusted my own. If I edited the truth to protect my image, I was playing the same game my mother had played. Later, Emma told me Grandma had made her practice a sentence. Mom forgets things when she gets stressed. Grandma said people would ask questions after we moved, and Emma had to answer the right way. Claire found photographs of the bedroom my mother had prepared for Emma. The earliest was dated months before I accepted the job in Columbus. The move had not created the plan. It had only given my mother a deadline. That night, my phone rang from a blocked number. Brooke's voice was barely above a whisper. Mom never planned to put my name on the petition. I have the drafts, the emails, copies of your signature, and a recording she thinks I deleted. I asked why I should trust the woman who had broken my daughter's face. Because she was never planning to share your daughter with me, Brooke said. She was planning to use both of us. Brooke might have been lying to save herself, but if she was telling the truth, her evidence could answer the question I feared most. What had happened inside the quiet room 8 months earlier? Claire refused to let me meet Brooke alone. The next day, she arranged a recorded meeting at her office. Brooke signed a statement allowing the police and court to receive anything she provided. She placed an envelope and a USB drive on the table. The emails showed she had downloaded guardianship forms, photographed my apartment, kept the family stability chart, and practiced copying my signature. The earliest files predated my job offer. Brooke wanted her cooperation considered when the birthday assault was reviewed. She also wanted me to know Mom had lied to her. I was not there to ease her guilt. I wanted the truth. When Claire asked why she picked up the cake, Brooke looked down. She had seen temporary emergency guardianship on the page in Emma's hands. Guests were close enough to read it. She thought frosting would cover the paper, Emma would cry, everyone would assume it was a joke, Mom would have time to take the folder. I panicked, she said. Panic didn't pick up that cake. You did. Brooke insisted she never meant for Emma to hit the fireplace. You didn't have to mean the fracture. You meant the assault. Then I said what had been inside me since the hospital. You used my daughter's body to hide a document. People who cause harm often ask to be judged only by the outcome they claim they never intended. Responsibility begins with the first choice. Claire opened the final petition. It requested sole guardianship for my mother. Brooke appeared only as a witness. Another file was labeled Household Risks. Mom described Brooke as impulsive, financially unstable, emotional, and unfit to care for a child alone. Brooke read it twice. Mom had promised they would raise Emma together. In truth, she planned to use Brooke, gain control, then remove her. I did not pity her. A controlling person has no real allies. Only people who have not realized they are also being documented. The USB contained photographs of Emma's prepared bedroom from 5 months earlier. One recording captured Mom saying, "Once the judge signs, she'll have to prove she deserves her daughter back." Before leaving, Brooke stopped at the door. The old injury didn't happen the way Mom wrote it. I locked the door. Mom told me not to open it. Claire sealed the USB inside an evidence bag. I had come looking for proof of a false petition. I left knowing my family had locked my daughter inside a room, heard her fall, and stood outside deciding which lie to tell. The next afternoon, Brooke returned with her attorney and agreed to give a formal statement to Detective Reed. Claire sat beside me and warned me not to interrupt. Every detail had to be recorded clearly. Brooke began with the night 8 months earlier. Mom had been asking Emma about my work. What time did I come home? Did I forget dinner? Did Emma feel safer at Grandma's house? Then Mom made her practice one sentence. Mom forgets me when she works. Emma refused. She asked to call me. Mom told her I was busy because I had chosen my job over being a responsible mother. When Emma cried, Mom said tears would not control the adults in the room. She ordered Brooke to take her to the storage room. Brooke closed the door. Then she turned the lock. For a while, Emma called my name. She asked them to let her out. Brooke heard the low shelf scraping across the floor. Emma had dragged it beneath the latch. The latch was too high to reach, so she climbed. There was a sharp metallic sound. Then something struck the wall. Emma screamed. Brooke moved toward the door, but Mom stopped her. She said opening it right away would teach Emma that screaming worked. They needed to wait until she calmed down, so they waited. My daughter was hurt behind a locked door, and the adults outside were discussing what lesson she needed to learn. Brooke said she had been afraid of Mom. I looked at her. You were an adult, she was a child. You were afraid of losing approval. She was afraid no one would open the door. Brooke lowered her eyes. When they finally entered, Emma's face was swelling. Mom used the false authorization and took her to the clinic. She claimed Emma had injured herself during an emotional outburst. On the drive home, Mom told Emma that if she gave me a different story, I could lose my job and maybe lose custody of her. Emma stayed silent for 8 months because she thought she was protecting me. Adults often call a quiet child well-behaved. Sometimes a child is quiet because someone taught her that the truth would hurt the person she loved most. What broke me was not that Emma had hidden the truth, it was that she believed protecting me was her responsibility. After the statement, Detective Reed opened the shared storage account with the password Brooke provided. One folder was labeled Family Stability Project. It held medical records, school notes, photographs of my apartment, and questions prepared for Emma. One audio file was called Grocery List. It was far too large for a shopping note. Detective Reed pressed play. My mother's voice filled the room. This time, she was not speaking to Brooke. She was teaching my daughter how to answer the person who might decide where she would live. My mother's voice came through the speaker, calm and patient. She asked Emma to repeat that I forgot her when I worked. Then she asked where Emma felt safest. There was a long pause. At home with Mom. My mother's tone changed. That is not the answer we practiced. The room around me seemed to tighten. Detective Reed reached toward the computer, but I stopped the recording first. I don't need to hear every frightened breath to believe her. My mother had turned Emma's fear into material, questions, answers, dates, and files. I would not do the same. We preserved the portion that mattered and left the rest untouched. Another document in the account showed the date Mom planned to file the petition, 3 days before our move. Then a message arrived on my phone. Cancel the move, and I'll withdraw the petition. She had spent days claiming Emma was unsafe with me. Now she was willing to erase that danger if I gave up the job and stayed close enough for her to control us. That was not protection. It was leverage. The next morning, I explained the child interview to Emma. No grandma, no Aunt Brooke. I would not be in the room. She could draw instead of speaking. She could stop whenever she wanted. The interview center had soft green walls, a low table, colored pencils, and wooden figures. The specialist showed Emma every corner of the room before asking a single question. For once, an adult explained the rules to her instead of demanding obedience. "Will you wait outside?" she asked. "Yes." "Even if it takes a long time?" "Even then." Before she entered, she held my hand with both of hers. "If I tell the truth, do I still have to be their family?" I knelt beside her. "You never have to let someone hurt you just to prove you love them." The interview lasted more than an hour. I stayed in the waiting room. I did not approach the door. I did not ask whether she was crying. I used to think listening meant staying quiet while someone spoke. Later, I learned it also meant not demanding more details just to make myself feel less afraid. When Emma came out, she looked tired. She did not tell me what happened inside. She only said, "I need you to believe me before Grandma explains." I told her I would. The specialist later shared only what the investigation required. Emma's account matched the drawing of the room, Brooke's statement, the clinic record, the location of the old fracture, and the recording. Claire placed my written statement on the table. "We don't have to prove you never failed," she said. "We have to prove your mistakes were not her design." Claire spread my work calendar across her conference table. Every late shift was there. Every pickup I had changed. Every night I had asked my mother to keep Emma because I could not leave work. My first instinct was to explain each one. Claire stopped me. The explanations could come later. First, I had to state what happened without polishing it. I wrote that Emma once told me she hated sleeping at Grandma's house. Then I crossed out hated and replaced it with had trouble adjusting. Claire slid the page back. That is not what she said. She was right. Emma had said she hated it there. I accepted my mother's calm explanation because it made my life easier. I needed help, and asking another question might have taken that help away. So I wrote the truth. I included the long shifts, late pickups, and messages where I asked my mother to step in. I admitted that I brought Emma home after the birthday party and waited until she vomited before taking her to the emergency room. I had been overworked. I had misjudged danger. I had trusted the wrong person. Those facts belonged to me. The false records did not. At the bottom, I wrote, "I made mistakes." I did not forge records, coach my child, lock her in a room, or hide a fracture. There was a time when I thought dignity meant never letting anyone see me fail. Now I understood it meant saying I was wrong without giving someone else permission to finish my story. My mother needed my shame. She believed I would be too embarrassed to show the whole truth. Once I stopped trying to look perfect, she lost her strongest weapon. Brooke's attorney asked whether I would carry an apology to Emma before the hearing. He said Brooke wanted her cooperation understood in the proper light. My daughter is not responsible for making her feel forgiven enough to testify. Brooke could send a letter through the legal process. Emma could read it now, later, or never. Brooke agreed to testify anyway. I submitted my calendar. I preserved the birthday video without posting it. I asked that only the necessary part of the recording be played in court. On the courthouse steps, my mother blocked my path. She wanted me to cancel the move, stop the police, and settle everything inside the family. I did not argue. I walked past her and entered the courtroom carrying one binder. Inside were the facts against my mother. Inside were my failures too. The truth did not make me look perfect, but it was the one thing my mother had never prepared to face in full. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. There was no jury, no crowd of relatives, and no room for my mother to turn the hearing into a family performance. Her attorney began with the facts she had collected, my long shifts, the late pickups, the apartment photographs, the medication I had taken after my husband died, the decision to bring Emma home before taking her to the emergency room. When I took the stand, I denied none of it. "Did you take your daughter directly to the hospital after the party?" "No, I should have taken her sooner." Then I explained why. I made that mistake because I still trusted my mother's judgment. I did not know she had already hidden a fracture from me. Claire did not ask the judge to see me as perfect. She asked the judge to see the difference between mistakes and design. The two X-rays were placed side by side. Next came the false medical authorization and the altered school form. Both carried the same closed loop in the first letter of my name. The birthday video showed Brooke stepping forward with the cake. The sound captured her saying, "Not that side again." Brooke admitted she meant to cover the guardianship page with frosting. She admitted Emma fell because she struck her, not because Emma panicked. She also admitted helping prepare the records. Then Claire played the short audio excerpt. My mother's voice told Emma which answer she was supposed to give. Finally, Claire submitted the message offering to withdraw the petition if I canceled the move. My mother took the stand last. She said Emma had been out of control in the storage room. She said the locked door was meant to teach boundaries. When Claire asked why they waited after hearing the shelf fall, my mother said children used crying to manipulate adults. The judge looked at her differently. For the first time, my mother understood that her calm explanation had not protected her. It had exposed her. I looked across the room. You were not protecting her. You were replacing her voice with your own. The judge denied the guardianship petition. The no-contact order remained. The suspected forgery, false statements, and danger created in the quiet room were referred for criminal investigation. Justice did not come because my story sounded more painful. It came because every choice my mother made left a trail, and no one allowed her to explain for everyone else. Outside, I called the woman caring for Emma. "Can Grandma still take me?" Emma asked. "No, she cannot." This time, she did not ask me to repeat it. But winning in court could not heal a child by itself. It only closed the door we needed closed, so we could begin building something safe on the other side. 2 months later, Emma and I moved to Columbus. The windows faced maple trees. I hung my schedule beside the refrigerator, where Emma could see every shift, school event, therapy appointment, and approved pickup. She chose the 2 people allowed to bring her home. No one received access because they were family. Every permission had a reason and a limit. The clinic added a note to Emma's medical record stating that the old authorization and story were disputed. Her school removed every permission connected to my mother and Brooke. My mother could not contact Emma during the investigation. She sent a letter through Claire, explaining that she had only wanted to keep the family together. I did not read it to my daughter. Brooke sent an apology through her attorney. I told Emma the letter existed. She could read it now, later, or never. "What if she is really sorry?" Emma asked. "She can be sorry without being allowed back into your life." Regret belonged to Brooke. Access to Emma did not. Therapy moved slowly. Emma drew the quiet room without a door. Weeks later, she added a small square above the shelf. "What is that?" I asked. "A window," she said. "The real room did not have one. Mine can." I did not tell her what it meant. I had spent too long letting adults explain her feelings. When her next birthday came, Emma asked for a small party at a park. She made 3 rules. No one touched the cake before she cut it. No jokes were allowed if they hurt someone. Anyone who wanted a picture had to ask. The cake had blue flowers. I placed the knife beside the plate and stepped back. Emma cut the first slice herself. No one touched her. No one laughed before she did. A week later, we completed a new emergency contact form. I signed my name with the open first letter I had used since high school. Emma looked at it. "That is your real one." Then she signed beneath the 2 names she had approved. I once believed family meant people who could enter without knocking. Now I understood that real family stops at the door, asks permission, and respects the answer. Blood can create a relationship. Only actions can make it safe. I did not win because my mother and sister suffered. I won because my daughter no longer had to stay silent to protect adults. Now I know who is allowed to take me home.